This video is actually an excerpt from an interview with a veteran 20-year contractor in the New Jersey area that talks about some of the heat pump considerations you want to make when picking out a heat pump for your home. He talks about ductless systems as well as ductwork and ductwork modifications and what's actually necessary to get the best HVAC for your home when you're considering a heat pump. So we hope you enjoy this. And if you're interested in checking out the full-length interview, make sure you stay till the end because we'll be linking that full-length interview for your convenience.
Right on. And as far as like the age of the homes you're working on out there, do you see a lot of like older homes? Is that why the insulation is just so terrible?
Yeah, I'm in the northern New Jersey market here. I mean, a lot of 1900s, 1920s, 1950s homes. They've been renovated over some time. But so it was never, the home was never designed with ductwork in mind, right? I mean, brand new house, sure, even brand new construction houses, like ductwork is generally not done pretty well. You know that yourself, probably.
I do, yeah.
I'm surprised sometimes the ductwork from a 1950s house is executed a lot better than a 1990s house.
Yeah.
It's retrofitted ductwork. So this is where, I think a lot of education happens between us and the customer. Customers sometimes don't think about the ductwork being part of the formula, but I think it's, I break it down very simple to customers. I kind of tell them 50-50, 50% of it is the equipment. The other 50 is like the distribution system. In some instances, it's honestly a lot more. The distribution system has so much more value. I don't care what equipment I put in there. If the ductwork is just not done right, not sized right, not distributed right, leaking everywhere, you're not going to get results. And essentially, they're paired up together. So yeah, I mean, there's projects where ductwork is hidden and you can't do anything about it and you have to live with it. But then you come up with the alternate solutions like, ductless in spaces too.
Sure. And when you're putting in a ductless system, do you put in a lot of cassettes or do you ever put in any of the slim duct units or some of the, or mostly wall mount? Like what is is it just come down to budget for you guys or there are design constraints you kind of run into?
Yes. To all of it.
Yeah.
I mean, every one of it. So yeah, I mean, people love the one-way ceiling cassettes that fit in between the joists. They look beautiful. Yeah. They don't interrupt the space. They look like they belong.
Those are the Mitsubishi, sorry to interrupt. Those are the Mitsubishi, the 14-inch, like the narrower one-way cassettes, right? Yeah.
And other manufacturers now have them too. It's a great thing. Everybody wants them. Not everybody necessarily has the budget. Sometimes, like, the design forces you to use those units because you look around and go, you don't have wall space. It's all glass or whatever it is, right? So sometimes you're forced to use that. But yeah, a lot of our projects end up being a combination of a little bit of everything: wall, ceiling, floor unit, a little bit of a ducted system. That's the beauty. I mean, that's the beauty of again, why we deal with a product like Mitsubishi. There's a lot of flexibility to their design.
And then our Mitsubishi, that is for their, is it a VRF product that they make?
Yeah, it's technically their M series has that brand price. They can do multiple, but sometimes they have a product called a Smart Multi, which actually crosses. It's a single condenser, could be both a VRF and connected to a standard kind of mini split ported system. But sometimes VRF is actually installed because it performs a little bit differently and there's slightly different units. So each has its advantages.
Sure. And then is that your favorite unit that, like, if it was a perfect world and you had one unit you could install, that would be the one? If
you ask me what I got in my house, it's Mitsubishi. Okay. I always tell people it's the X factor. I mean, listen, a lot of units are very comparable. You look at them on paper, efficiencies, and like some units are have this much efficiency and all that, they'll win on paper. And sometimes customers, when they do research, they're so focused on those SEER numbers and HSBF numbers. Essentially, when you get to like 19 SEER, 20 SEER, like what's the difference, right? So I sometimes try to talk customers down from that ledge to just not be so focused on that. There's what I call an X factor, right? And X factor is every contractor probably has their own, right? X factor is the experience level that we have with installing certain products. Historically, we as a company have installed certain products for a generation, and then we find out, oh, this product fails early. It fails after 5 years, 6 years. We always have issues with it. It's problematic. We can't get parts. Well, any good contractor will stop selling that product and move on to a product that's more reliable. I mean, I think we're the number one people that want a reliable product because unreliable products give us headaches. Yeah, totally. And Mitsubishi is one of those products that just, we install them, and obviously you have to do it right. We just don't have issues. We don't have major issues. I can't tell you with the thousands and thousands of units we installed, I am not sure when the last time we changed a Mitsubishi compressor. I think it was probably 2010, and I think it got hit by lightning. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's nice. And I mean, some of that I definitely attribute to, install best practices, obviously, because if you install the stuff incorrectly, you'd be surprised. I mean, some of the stuff we run into, we see, you wonder how it ever ran, right? And the customer, when you recommend all these repairs or changes, they might be like, well, it's been running like this, for years, and you're kind of shocked. What are some of the installation best practices? Just take me through the list, like everything that you do start to finish, maybe even when you start bidding a job, to make sure a system's going to work right, and what a customer should be looking for in order to do that.
Sure. It's very tough to say what a customer should be looking for. I mean, they should be looking for
what they should be looking for in their contractor, right? What the contractor should be doing.
Exactly. So let me kind of steer this a little bit differently. There's a lot of customers, and I deal with them all the time. They're focused on doing research on a product. They'll do research on Mitsubishi, on Trane, on Carrier, and they're focused on the product. A customer should honestly focus their research on the installation company, right? Look at their Google reviews, look at everything else you find about them, look at their presence. The salesperson that comes into your house too. I mean, there's a lot of, psychological things that happen there too. You have a good feeling from them and all that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, if a company does something bad, somebody goes on the internet and they're the first ones to tell you they did something bad. So, if you look at Google reviews and things like that, it tells you a lot about how companies are installing things. But to answer your question on the technical side, it honestly has to start with training, right? Because you can talk about all these good things that need to happen, best practices, but the best practices have to be pervasive through your whole company. Everybody has to understand them. Everybody has to do them. Best practices are the little things, the details, right? So when installed, systems have to look good. Number one, it can't be sloppy. It has to look good. Level, right? Pitch air handlers correctly so you don't have water problems. You have to take care of water, condensate. That's important because otherwise you damage people's places. The way things are pitched, the way things are insulated in an attic so they don't sweat, right? It's the little details. But then, quite honestly, the most important day in the life of an air conditioning system is the day it's started up.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else really matters. If somebody screws that up, it might be too late. You already may have done damage. There's a thing called, triple evacuation, right?
Yeah.
A lot of technicians, a lot of companies don't even do it, don't even know it. They skip it because, they can get away with it. Problems probably don't show up till many years later. But if you do the proper evacuation procedures, pressure check your system, of course, first, do the proper evacuation procedures, and do the proper charging procedures. It's kind of simple. I know, Howard, you probably know this, but it's focusing on those things. Then, like, the system will work. The system will be fine. Even if it's not the best brand out there or whatever it is, if you're doing those things perfectly, you're not leaving any contaminants inside the refrigeration system, you should be good. And those are the steps that are very easy to skip because sometimes they're time consuming, and I'm going to call them lazy installers can skip them because, because the system will work day one. They'll walk away from it and go, it's going great.
Totally. Yeah. And that's all great stuff. I mean, those are the things that I try and, I like, when we bring it up to customers, that these are things that we do in terms of making sure that things are, brazing with nitrogen or something, just basic stuff to make sure that you're getting, because you can actually look at copper from the inside when when they've shown pictures where you like cut open copper that's been brazed without it. And I've had the, unpleasant experience of techs that just don't listen and don't do that. And I'm like, hey, we do this for a reason. And it's just because it makes, like, I don't want to deal with your callbacks, and you don't want to deal with your callbacks either, right? And so it's gonna do nothing but cause problems. What do you think is the biggest mistake that people make when they're because you talked about if someone's in the market for an HVAC, system replacement, most of the people that come to our channel, that's what they're looking at. They're looking at different products. We educate them about COP and efficiency and different things, customer experience. What's the biggest mistake people are making? And if there was one thing that you think people should do right, and maybe you already touched on it, with the researching of the installation company, but if there's one big mistake and one thing people should really focus on, what would those be?
Yeah, and I think the answer is probably different for different kind of customers, because I kind of, there's the researchers. I love the researchers, right? Those are the people who are proactive researchers, and there's the reactive people. It's broken, and whoever can come here tomorrow because I need air conditioning. I want it. Yes, I mean, focus on the company installing it, honestly, because like you said, you can take the best equipment in the world. If you have a bunch of idiots installing it, if things aren't going to end up well, right? And that happens a lot. I think from the contractor's perspective, there's a lot of conversation always about price. And then you get compared to a contractor. Well, we found somebody here lower priced, right? There's no magic in what we do in the numbers. We all pay about the same for equipment. Somebody pays a little bit more, a little bit less, their percentage points. We all buy materials. We all pay our staff, right? How much you pay your staff is actually probably a reflection of how good they are, right? If you're getting the lowest cost technicians or untrained labor, you're not paying them. They're probably not that good. Those are the guys probably skipping the steps we just talked about, right? Yeah. So there's no magic of like, hey, I got a great deal. If you're comparing products, if you're buying a Toyota Highlander and dealer 1 and dealer 2 have a totally fast price, and you go, it's the same product, right? I can get it cheaper. Fine. With service companies, there's no true comparison like that. So you got to always understand that, yes, not everybody wants to pay the highest price, but that's why everybody tells you to get multiple bids, and you kind of pick, listen, we're sometimes the highest priced companies, and yes, people pick us for a reason, but the consensus is you want to pick somebody kind of in the middle or even high middle. You never want to pick the lowest price guy.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, like sometimes if the contractors are the lowest price by coincidence, they're missing something or they're skipping something. There's something that's usually cut. It's either their skilled labor or some materials, or they're not quite doing what they're doing. And the telltale sign is usually in the proposals, because a lot of times when we get pinned up against contractors and companies, a customer will tell us that, hey, we got a proposal from company A, company B. I go, great. Let's see those proposals. Within a minute, I can tell you, well, there's no mention of this, mention of that. And customers go, well, I'm assuming they're doing it. We talked about it. I'm like, okay, well, call them. A lot of times they'll call them and go, you know what, Chris, you were right. They're not doing the electric power. They just added it on. Now the price is jacked up and it's closer to yours.
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. Customers make so many, like the sweetness of the low price, and what's that saying that Benjamin Franklin had? The bitterness of low quality doesn't,
Yeah, I think my favorite quote on that is an attorney that I worked for when I was a kid. He said, "A bad job isn't a good deal at any price." So it's something along those lines.
Right. You're not rich enough to afford the cheapest price. Is the other one, right? And that's
right. Yeah, I like that. I haven't heard that before.
Yeah, generally speaking, when we come into service places, this is generally the story we hear. We'll come somewhere where it's a year, 2, 3 after a new system was installed. They're experiencing problems. They're fed up with the contractor who either hasn't come back to deal with the warranty issues, or maybe has and he's just band-aiding things, and they're realizing, oops, I made a mistake.
And as promised earlier, there's a video popping up on the screen right now that is a link to the full-length interview, so check that out if you haven't done so already. And if you're interested in connecting with Chris or Integrate Comfort Systems and you happen to be in the New Jersey area, make sure you click the link in the description for more information on how you can get in touch with Chris. And if you're outside of New Jersey area or the Denver area, which is the market that we serve, and you're interested in being connected with a contractor in your area, we actually created a referral program through the HVACdopeshow.com, and that is also linked in the description. So for more information on how you can connect with a contractor in your area and get a referral to one of the best contractors in your area, click the link in the description for more information, and we will catch you on the next episode.